Welcome to the deep dive. So, you've brought us a really interesting scenario today. This company, they wanted to scale up their developer team, right? But they were really hitting a wall with productivity.
Exactly. It's the kind of situation lots of companies face, and you shared some great details. Our mission really is to explore why just throwing more people at a problem, especially in development, isn't always the right fix.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into a real case study from the printed advertising world to see what was really going on under the hood.
And the source you've got, this blog post about client engagement, it seems like it gives us a really good window into how they tackled it.
Yeah, it's quite detailed. So this company, they'd been around about 10 years, a solid player in printed ads, and their core, a Ruby on Rails application.
Okay.
I mean, it ran everything, back office, franchisee stuff, even the design side of things. So, super critical.
Right, the heart of the operation.
Yeah.
And the problem, the initial one, was low productivity. Sounds familiar.
Very familiar. Getting fixes out, rolling out new features. It was just slow. Too slow for what they needed. So they hired a new CTO.
To speed things up, presumably, get things moving.
That was the goal. The CTO saw the need for experienced Rails developers. But here's the twist.
Okay.
Let's call it the naive solution, just hiring more developers. Well, they'd kind of already tried that, and it hadn't really worked.
Ah, okay. So that really sets the stage. It wasn't just about headcount.
Exactly. That's why we need to dig into what those real roadblocks were.
All right, let's get into the diagnosis then. The blog post mentions how the consultants approached this, right? A structured assessment.
Yep, exactly. They didn't just look at one thing. They took a really holistic view. The code, sure, but also the infrastructure it ran on, the team they had, and maybe the most crucial bit, how they actually worked, their workflow.
It's a whole system, isn't it? Not just individual developers coding away.
Precisely. Productivity emerges from that whole system working together, or not working, as the case may be.
So, starting with the code itself, the assessment found what? Anything major?
Well, that's the interesting part. They looked, but found nothing extraordinary, as the post puts it. No obvious smoking gun in the code itself that explained the slowdown.
So it wasn't like they were using ancient technology or had some fundamentally broken architecture.
Not really. I mean, the versions of Ruby, Rails, the libraries, it was all pretty standard stuff. Nothing immediately screamed, "This is why you're slow."
Okay. So if the code wasn't the prime suspect, what about the infrastructure? This is where things started to get interesting, right?
Yeah, this is where the first significant issues started popping up. The setup itself was revealing. Their app ran on multiple virtual private servers, VPSs.
Okay, multiple servers.
But get this, deployment, managing that infrastructure, it all funneled through one single DevOps engineer.
Wow. Just one person.
Yeah.
That sounds like a huge bottleneck waiting to happen.
Absolutely. If that person was busy or sick or, just unavailable, deployment stopped. Didn't matter how much code the revs wrote.
Right. And the deployment process itself.
It was manual for both staging and production on separate VPSs.
Oof. Manual deployments.
The blog post called it, and rightly so, a huge waste of time and prone to errors. Think about the hours spent just doing that and the chances of messing something up each time.
Definitely a drain. More developers wouldn't fix that.
Not at all. And worse, the staging environment, where you test things before they go live.
Yeah, critical step.
It was broken, didn't work correctly. Plus, there were differences between staging and production.
Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. How can you test properly then?
You can't, really, not with confidence. Shipping code becomes a gamble. So this unreliable staging, the manual deployments, that was like the first big red flag waving.
Okay, so a shaky foundation, technically. What about the people? The team itself, what did the assessment find there?
Well, the team structure had its own set of challenges. It was mostly made up of freelancers.
Freelancers, okay. Common enough, but...
But crucially, their availability was really limited. Many were part-time, some even just quarter-time.
So not a dedicated core team focused just on this. And they were spread out too, weren't they, geographically?
Yeah, exactly. Different locations, which means different time zones. Now, that can work, but you need really strong communication practices.
And they didn't have those.
It sounds like they didn't. The post mentions just a weekly meeting and limited Slack use.
There's not much.
Yeah.
Especially for a distributed part-time team.
Yeah.
Sounds like things could easily fall through the cracks.
For sure. If someone hits a blocker, how quickly can they get help? If communication is only like once a week or sporadic on Slack, well, you get delays. Lots of wasted time just waiting around.
Yeah, I could see that.
So this lack of, robust communication to actually support the way the team was structured, that was definitely the second red flag.
Okay, so we've got infrastructure issues, communication gaps, a part-time distributed team. How did all that actually affect their day-to-day work, the workflow?
The blog post connects those dots pretty clearly. That shaky infrastructure, the poor communication, it directly hit their ability to actually get stuff done efficiently.
And their project tracking system, JIRA, wasn't helping either, apparently.
Yeah, this is a classic example of a tool potentially making things worse if not used right. Their JRA was apparently a mess.
How so?
Like tons of tickets, disorganized, many outdated. They were even using epics, which should group big features but assigning them to individuals. Just not how it's meant to work.
Okay.
And crucially, no sprints, no short, focused work cycles.
So just a big pile of tasks with no clear rhythm or a way to track real progress. I can see how that would feel like stagnation. That's the third red flag then.
Definitely felt like a third red flag. It makes it really hard for the team to see movement, to feel like they're achieving things. Then you look at their actual coding process in GitHub.
Right, they had some rules there.
They did. Mandatory two-person approval for every pull request, plus an AI code reviewer.
Okay. On the surface, that sounds like good quality control, maybe.
It can be, but in their context, with the poor communication and distributed team, it just slowed everything way down.
Because finding two people available at the right time, especially across time zones, to review and approve, that could take ages.
Exactly. Getting code reviewed, approved, and actually merged became this huge bottleneck. That's the fourth red flag.
Right. And the consequence of that slow merge process, plus the messy JIRA,
Yeah.
sounds like it created a backlog.
A massive backlog. The post mentioned a large number of open pull requests. Some were even abandoned, years old.
Years old, wow.
Yeah. And because they were so old, trying to merge them back into the main code base was incredibly difficult, risky even. Just this pile of stale code blocking the pipeline. Fifth red flag, clear as day.
Okay, so infra, team, communication planning, workflow bottlenecks.
Huh.
A perfect storm, really. No wonder adding more developers didn't fix it. So what were the solutions proposed?
Right, so the consultants targeted each of these red flags for the infrastructure problem.
Yeah.
The proposal was to migrate the whole application to Heroku.
Heroku. Okay, for listeners, that's a platform as a service, right? What does that actually do for a team like this?
Good question. Basically, platforms like Heroku handle a lot of the server management stuff for you. Deployments get way easier, scaling is more automated, they provide databases, logging, all that.
Takes the burden off that one DevOps person, essentially.
Exactly. The big wins here were simplified management, much easier and faster deployments, and crucially, fixing that staging versus production difference, getting a reliable testing environment working.
Makes total sense. Okay, what about the team issues? The freelancer distributed model?
They recognized that model wasn't really working for them. It wasn't fostering the collaboration they needed. So the proposal was to shift towards building a more cohesive nearshore team.
Nearshore. So geographically closer, similar time zones.
Precisely. Closer time zones make real-time chat, quick questions, stand-ups, all that stuff much, much easier. They also felt a nearshore team might share a more, pragmatic approach to code and process.
So the idea was to gradually move away from the scattered freelancers.
Yeah, reduce reliance on that model and invest in this more tightly knit nearshore setup.
Okay, and communication. Clearly needed an overhaul.
Absolutely. The recommendations were pretty practical. Really focus asynchronous chat in Slack, make it more organized, add daily stand-up meetings, quick check-ins, identify blockers, and keep the weekly planning but make it more focused.
Just basic good hygiene for team communication, really.
Pretty much, but it was missing. Then, tackling the JRA mess and the lack of planning.
How'd they approach that?
Structure. Bring structure back.
Okay.
Use JRA properly. Epics for big features. Break those into smaller, manageable tickets. Use separate tickets for bugs or small things. And the big one, start using 2-week sprints.
Introducing agile rhythm.
Exactly. Create those focused cycles. The weekly planning meeting then becomes about reviewing the last sprint, prioritizing the next one, and looking a bit further ahead.
And finally, that workflow bottleneck. The slow code reviews and merging.
The goal there was just less friction. Make it easier to get code tested and out the door. The proposed flow was 1 pull request per JIRA ticket clear link there.
Okay.
Make the review process open. Anyone on the team could review. Once you got 1 approval.
Just 1. Down from 2.
Yep, just one. Deploy straight to staging. Then proper testing happens there, maybe involving QA if needed. If testing passes, merge the code. After the merge, deploy to production.
Much smoother. Faster feedback loops, less waiting around.
That was the idea. Reduce the hurdles.
So these changes sound really comprehensive,
Yeah.
addressing all those red flags. What actually happened? What were the results after they implemented this stuff?
The blog post paints a pretty impressive picture, actually. After just 3 months of these changes,
3 months. Okay, pretty quick turnaround.
yeah, they saw really significant shifts, like starting with the infrastructure.
A Heroku migration.
Yep, they went from 10 servers, app servers, other bits and pieces, down to just 2 Heroku apps and their related services like databases.
10 down to 2.
Oh,
I must have saved money.
Big time. Infrastructure costs were optimized by a factor of 3, like a 300% reduction.
Okay, that alone is huge. What about actually deploying code?
Deployment time went from, well, however long the manual process took, down to minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah, huge time saving, less chance of errors. And critically, they fixed the testing pipeline. They had a reliable staging server that actually mirrored production.
So more confidence in releasing.
Yeah,
Much more stable.
definitely. And on the team side,
Yeah. The communication, the planning.
they reported, noticeable improvements, better communication, better team interaction. Seemed like people were more aligned, and the planning got much clearer with the sprints and better JRA use. Priorities were actually sorted out.
That sounds great. But the most surprising part, considering where they started wanting more developers, what happened to the team size in the end?
Yeah, this is the kicker. It really highlights the whole point. They actually reduced the team size
Reduced. By how much?
from 4 people down to 1.
1 developer. Down from 4. After starting out thinking they needed more?
Exactly. It perfectly underlines that initial thought. Just adding people wasn't the answer. It wasn't even necessary.
Wow.
The conclusion in the post really drives this home. The gut instinct was, we need more bodies. But the real solution was focusing resources, time, money, effort on the right problems. Fixing the infrastructure, the process, the communication, that unlocked efficiency.
So even with a smaller team, they presumably got more done, or at least got things done more smoothly and reliably.
That's the implication. Greater efficiency trumped sheer numbers.
Okay, so for you, our listener, maybe wrestling with similar productivity questions, this deep dive really offers a powerful lesson, doesn't it?
I think so.
Boosting productivity isn't always about just hiring more people. Sometimes, maybe often, the biggest gains come from looking inward, optimizing those foundations.
Your infrastructure, your processes, how your team actually communicates and works together day to day.
This case shows it clearly. Shorter development cycles, huge cost savings, more manageable team, all came from fixing those core issues, not just scaling headcount.
Yeah, the outcomes were pretty compelling.
So maybe here's a final thought to chew on. What are the assumptions you're making about productivity in your own team or your own work? Are you assuming you need more resources, or could there be bottlenecks hiding in your processes, your tools, your communication?
Right. Could focusing on those fundamental elements, that sort of smart augmentation of how you work now, unlock way more value than just trying to scale up?
Definitely something worth reflecting on.